If you're watching this video, you've probably had a bite of Domino's pizza. And you may actually like it, like many people do, or hate it, like many people also do. Yes, we know, pizza divides opinion, especially Domino's. Some people would prefer cardboard and ketchup, while some would actually eat it all day, every day, and twice on Sundays. However, throughout all this eating and not eating, we're guessing you didn't know that Domino's Pizza only came to be when two brothers decided they would remake the world and transform a very ordinary pizza restaurant into something bigger, something better, something like Domino's Pizza. And it's clear that they've been successful. Today, Domino's has more than 15,000 locations around the world and is on basically every continent. The pizza brand is almost synonymous with pizza, and you would be hard-pressed to find someone who hasn't heard of the pizza restaurant before. But how did all this happen? This is Munchable, and today we'll be looking at how two brothers turned an ordinary pizza restaurant into a worldwide name. Our story starts off in 1960. That year is famous for many things. It's the year that John F. Kennedy won the presidential election. It's the year that the U.S. entered the Vietnam War, and it's also the year that aluminum cans are used for the first time. So you get it, 1960 was a pretty eventful year. However, 1960 was also the year that Tom Monaghan and his brother James took over the operation of DomiNick's, an existing location of a small pizza restaurant. The restaurant was owned by Dominic and now you know where the name DomiNick's came from. To buy the company from Dominic, Tom and his brother had borrowed about $900. This may sound like relatively little money right now, but if adjusted to inflation, it was about $8,000 in today's money, so it wasn't a fortune, but it was certainly not the price of one iPhone. But why would Tom even do this in the first place? Did he just wake up one morning and decided getting himself into debt to buy a pizza restaurant would be a sound business? No, he didn't. Well, not strictly, anyway. The only reason Tom actually bought the restaurant was that he needed a way to pay his way through school, so this wasn't some venture business move by Tom. He desperately needed the pizza restaurant he was buying to be successful. His education was on the line. The brothers decided that they would split the work hours evenly as they had equal stakes in the business, but James had other plans. You see, James was a full-time postman at the time, and he wasn't interested in quitting his full-time job with a guaranteed pay in order to keep up with the demands of a new and considerably unstable job. So after 8 months, James quit. But he didn't only quit, he also traded his half of the business to Tom for the Volkswagen Beetle they used for deliveries. Basically, after just 8 months of starting the business, James had a nice ride, and Tom had nothing but the original pizza restaurant. At first, it seemed like a pretty sweet deal for James, and it's easy to see why. The first couple of years of the pizza restaurant was fraught with troubles. Tom had to threaten pizza thieves with a meat tenderizer and fisticuffs. He had a policy of never calling the police, so he was forced to settle many disputes with his fists. Sometimes it would be college boys who didn't want to pay for pizza, or it would be a good-for-nothing thugs who harassed him while delivering pizza. He dealt with them all the time by himself without police help. But that wasn't the only thing that happened after he founded the restaurant. 14 months after taking over the pizza restaurant, he met a woman when he was delivering pizza to a college dorm. The woman, Margie, caught his eye, and he invited her out to dinner. She was to become his wife, and they are actually still married to this day. However, marital success wasn't the only thing Tom discovered on his journey to building the second biggest pizza franchise in the world. He also discovered swindlers, a lot of them. So many people tried to swindle Tom with bogus business plans, and quite a few were successful. For example, one supposed oil tycoon convinced Tom to give him his entire life savings in order to drill an oil well. Unsurprising, the quote oil tycoon disappeared after receiving the money. Quickly tell us, would you give your entire life savings to an oil tycoon who promised you millions of dollars in return? Or would you exercise caution? Be honest now, don't lie. Back to our story. Through all this, Tom still managed to keep the pizza restaurant afloat. In fact, it wasn't only afloat, it was thriving. 5 years after taking over the restaurant, he founded 2 other pizzerias, and now he had a total of 3 pizzerias in the same county. Originally, Tom wanted the 3 pizzerias to have the same branding, but the owner of the DomiNick's brand, Dominic DeVardi, forbade him from doing that. So Tom had a problem with a name. However, that was solved when an employee, Jim Kennedy, returned from a pizza delivery run and suggested the name Domino's. Tom immediately fell in love with the name and officially renamed the business Domino's Pizza Incorporated in 1965. The original company logo had only 3 dots, and this was to represent the original 3 pizzerias. Tom's original idea was to add a new dot after the establishment of a new Domino's pizzeria. The idea, of course, was inspired by the American flag, where there's a star for every state. Unfortunately, or fortunately perhaps, this idea quickly seemed implausible as Domino's began to rapidly expand. In 1967, the company established its first franchise location, and by 1978, there were over 70 Domino's stores in America. However, growth wasn't to be that easy. In 1975, Domino's faced a lawsuit from Amstar Corporation, the makers of Domino's Sugar. The corporation alleged that Domino's was infringing on their copyright and constituted what they called unfair competition. The suit dragged on for 5 years, but in the end, the court ruled in favor of Domino's Pizza. As expected, that didn't stop Domino's from expanding. The company was already reaching heights that no one had expected. In order to improve sales, Tom began to look how to make his pizzas better. He decided that cutting short delivery time would be his best bet, so he decided to do exactly just that. He shaved seconds off the time needed to make each pizza and even designed a new corrugated pizza box that was designed to keep the pizza warm. This helped him stack more pizzas and to deliver more on one pizza run. After this, he created the 30 minutes or less policy. This meant if you didn't get your order in 30 minutes, you would get your pizza free of charge. This policy was wildly successful and improved sales almost overnight. The biggest reason why this policy was even successful in the first place was that Domino's already had expanded so much that a Domino's was within 30 minutes of most places. As the franchise of the business continued, so did the policy, and it was supremely successful. In 1985, Domino's opened their first store in Tokyo, Japan, and 10 years later, they had expanded to 1,000 international locations. Domino's had become a truly international brand. In 1996, the company opened its first website and declared global sales of over $3 billion. By now, Domino's had reached the pinnacle of pizza success. That's probably one of the reasons why Tom decided he would sell his stake in the business and retire from Domino's. In 1998, Tom decided that he would retire as CEO after 38 extremely successful years as the leader of the company. He sold about 93% of Domino's Pizza to Bain Capital Incorporated for $1 billion. After selling his stake in the company, he immediately stopped being involved in its day-to-day management. Even after the retirement of Tom, Domino's began to expand. Today, Domino's has introduced self-driving robots in select cities for delivering pizza. They've even used aerial drones to deliver pizza. The company recently even went public. All this was possible because Tom Monaghan decided to buy a pizza restaurant in order to pay his way through college. The story of Domino's just shows that you can do anything you want if you just decide to do it. This snack brand was sent in by a subscriber. If you really want to know about the origin of your favorite snack, simply send it to us. Who knows? You may be lucky enough, we may decide to make a video on your favorite snack brand. That's all for today, guys. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like 10 years of good luck. If you don't want good luck, feel free not to subscribe. This is Munchable. Goodbye and stay safe.